So we're going to do something slightly different with our readings for today, which is that I have just 2 verses from Leviticus chapter 19, but I have 6 different translations that I will read one after another to tease out some of the nuances and different ways that this verse can be held. So this is Leviticus chapter 19, verses 33 and 34. From the New International Version. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. From the New Revised Standard. When an alien resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. From the New King James Version. And if a stranger dwells with you in your land, you shall not mistreat him. The stranger who dwells among you shall be to you as one born among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. From the American Standard Version. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall do him no wrong. The stranger that sojourneth with you shall be unto you as the homeborn among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself, for ye were sojourners in the land of Egypt. I am Jehovah your God. From the King James Version. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. And finally, the Revised Standard Version. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. The stranger who sojourns with you shall be to you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. May God bless the hearing and the living of this word. And further from the writings of Emanuel Swedenborg, Secrets of Heaven, number 1463, that sojourning means receiving instruction becomes clear from the meaning in the word of sojourning as receiving instruction. And it has this meaning because sojourning and passing on or moving from one place to another is in heaven nothing else than a change of state. Therefore, every time traveling, sojourning, or transferring from one place to another occurs in the word, nothing else suggests itself to angels than a change of state, such as takes place with them. Welcome to the second week in our series, Exploring Mission. Today, we are talking about making space. And each week, we'll be exploring an aspect of our church's mission statement and connecting it to the spiritual ideas that drive it. And many times it is very easy to get caught up in the details of our lives and work. I know that my life is driven by my to-do list, and we forget why we are doing the things we do. And this series is an attempt to bring us back to the why of church and spiritual community. So today, we are going to focus on the part of our mission statement that says, we aim to create welcoming, open, and nurturing spaces, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So as we heard in our reading today, the Old Testament in particular contains repeated entreaties to welcome people. And these people are variously translated as the stranger or the foreigner or the sojourner. These different words get at different aspects of the concept. stranger speaks of newness to a place. Foreigner speaks of having belonged elsewhere previously. And sojourner is someone who will stay in a place for a time, but maybe not forever. Either way, the most important part to note is that the welcome is anchored in empathy. God asks the ancient Israelites to remember when they were strangers or sojourners, like in Egypt, to remember how it was when they were welcomed and cared for during a time of famine. God says, remember that and pay it forward, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it goes without saying that this principle applies to the modern church as well. This timeless exhortation to empathy and hospitality is just as relevant now as then. And I also want to widen our interpretation a little bit, because as much as it is important to focus on the literal words of our text, the inherent trap contained within that language is that it necessarily creates an in-group and an out-group, those who already belong and those who don't. You can't have a stranger unless you have a group who is already defined as belonging. And where there are groups of human beings, we also find gatekeepers and paternalism and self-satisfaction. However, when we look at the text through a Swedenborgian lens, we understand that the stranger and the sojourner are parts of ourselves, that even people who have entered this church 100 times, they are bringing some part of themselves that embodies being a stranger or being a sojourner. This experience is not one that is intrinsic to people out there, but one that we all share in different ways. For we heard in our Swedenborg reading that the representation or the metaphorical meaning of a sojourner is a change of state of mind, state of heart, state of being, a movement or a progression of one state to another. And isn't that what we are all looking for when we seek out holistic and nurturing spaces and community? We are looking to feel something, to learn something. We are looking to be moved, to experience a change that takes us a few steps further on our own personal journey. And in a welcoming, open, and nurturing space, we might find that we are able to move from being disconnected to connected, disengaged to engaged, isolated to communal, unfulfilled to fulfilled, harmed to healed, disenfranchised to empowered, despairing to hopeful, judged, including by ourselves, to accepted, exhausted to renewed, defensive to curious, fearful to courageous, and many, many more. And this is why we add the 3 descriptive qualifiers to our statement on welcoming space: physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Yes, we absolutely want to welcome people physically. This is the most basic tenet of hospitality. Yes, please come through our doors, come into our space. We want you here. And people also contain multitudes. And the kind of welcome, the kind of nurture that they might need might be deeper, might be unseen, might take time, might only be something God can do. The existence and maintenance of welcoming, open, and nurturing space is more than just that first invitation. It is instead an ongoing endeavor, for the invitation to cross our many personal thresholds is something we all need over and over again. Therefore, I believe our philosophy of welcome needs to be holistic, recognizing the stranger can be found on multiple levels and in multiple ways. And always, we draw on God's reminder to anchor us in empathy. Remember when you were in Egypt. Remember when you were hungry. Remember when you were sad, grieving, lonely, hurt, confused, a stranger to yourself. Remember when you were brought into the circle. Remember how it felt to find respite, to find community, to find acceptance. And so, now go and do likewise. And now I will share with you the offering from Shalonda Ingram, who is our placemaker and community developer here at the church. So this is what she's sharing. Happy and blessed Lunar New Year. I am grateful for the opportunity to practice allyship with the members of the Church of the Holy City, Wilmington community. I assert that the aim to create welcoming, open, and nurturing spaces, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, is materializing. The placemaking ministry that I am fortunate to lead is a wonderful demonstration of how the mission statement is operating in the lives of engaged people. Since the placemaking ministry was welcomed on site, artists have produced impactful multimedia content. Green for the Greater Good has a consistent place for their weekly civic planning meetings. Members of the church are learning new technology platforms and collaborating to be of greater service. These collective outcomes have required openness to newness, new ideas, new people, new meeting schedules, new investments, and new ways of being. These collective outcomes have required nurturing of the physical building and the materials therein, nurturing of relationships, and at times nurturing one another emotionally. As we continue to grow our collective practice of physicalizing this portion of the mission statement, I invite you to contemplate a quote from the Tao Te Ching, which is a Chinese classic text written around 400 BC and traditionally credited to the sage Lao Tzu. 30 spokes join one hub. The wheel's use comes from its emptiness. Clay is fired to make a pot. The pot's use comes from emptiness. Windows and doors are cut to make a room. The room's use comes from emptiness. Therefore, having leads to profit. Not having leads to use. May we each continue to create the emptiness within ourselves to be of use. May we authentically share space, time, and our journeys with one another in meaningful ways. May the balance be restored. And so it is. Amen.